tell me anything.
We don't know if Kathy's coming so early, but never penalize those that are never penalize those that are.
You should not. I totally agree, especially when they have another 2 more meetings.
Oh, okay.
Do we not have?
Because she's one of the.
Yeah, we do.
Sorry. All right, Chair Gary Delvaux. Vice Chair Matt Schuler has to be excused.
You say, here, you know what I mean.
Kathy Hinkfist and Helen Parma has to be excused.
Did Kathy actually contact you? I mean, did this or where? Bottom line, you got one.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Approval of agenda, please. Jim and Debbie, all those in favor saying aye. Motion carried. Approval of minutes. We actually have 2 meetings. The August 13th meeting, the regular meeting, and the August 20th special meeting. And the minutes were in the agenda. With the agenda. Motion to approve, please.
Move to approve.
Debbie is second by Jim. All those in favor saying aye. Aye. All right, so moved. Regular business. Number 1.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's it.
Consideration of possible action to adopt resolution 19-04 regarding commitment to redevelopment of foliage plants. I can't think of anything more exciting.
Yes. Well, you might have to contain that excitement for a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Look, I mean, it's no secret. We've been talking about potential relocation of coal piles, closure of the Pulliam plant, moving sea rice. Really, as we've worked on this, finding out that the closure of the Pulliam plant really could provide an opportunity to expand our port facilities and really benefit the community, the region, and the state. And so we've been continuing to have discussions about how we move forward with the proposal. What we're looking at is an opportunity to find out a little bit more what's there on the site. And so to do that, we're also looking for funding sources to be able to move forward with doing due diligence on the site.
Yes.
We don't know what we don't know. What we know, it's dirty, it's probably squishy, those good things that happen most are riverfront sites. But we're really looking to hire a consultant or work with somebody to really dig in, like we've done at the shipyard, and figure out what's potentially possible there. So with that, trying to get some support for that publicly and push forward some things. We felt it would be appropriate for us, to look at potentially doing a resolution to more publicly state that support. I know the mayor and Executive Streckenbach, signed a letter saying that we're going to work together on doing these things. Since I put this resolution out on the agenda, we've had some additional discussions, and also there's been an interest from City Council. I don't know if Alder Johnson is here, about also potentially doing a resolution. So one of the things, look, we kind of both go independently and do our own ways, but I think it may be more beneficial if we look at doing something jointly.
Yes.
So what I would just do today, until we kind of have that process, is ask that we hold this resolution for the time being, and then maybe there's some that we can craft and then work on together. So staff recommendation today would be just to hold this item.
Alderman Johnson.
Yeah, Kevin, my only fear with that is timing, because there is going to be a state hearing specifically related to how the state is going to fund this. There is a couple of options on how the state could potentially fund this, and one of those options, they're going to have a hearing shortly after our very next council meeting next week. And so my fear is if the RDA holds this today, that it could infringe on that deadline, and we may not have the opportunity to get it in front of that group before they meet.
And I'd be happy to provide them with a letter, in the interim.
Right. Well, obviously, we're totally in support, and full speed ahead as far as we're concerned. So whatever we got to do to help make this happen, the council will help.
Could we craft something today with the verbiage where that council could also approve?
Yeah, so I had actually sent an inquiry, Barb, to Vanessa about this, because I didn't realize that the RDA was going to take this up, and my intent was to put it on the council agenda as, I forget the term, the at-large item. Yeah, council as a whole. And so, honestly, I've reviewed it. I haven't had an opportunity to compare it against some other verbiage that I want to see. And so the question that I posed to Vanessa is if the RDA did this, it does not go to council, right? If the RDA holds this alone, in which case, that's why I'd inquired if we introduce it as a joint resolution, could it go in front of the council? But if the council makes any changes to it, does that, does that now void the RDA resolution? Making sense?
Well, yeah, but you just brought up the thing about timing, so what's the solution?
Well, that the RDA could do a resolution, the council could do a resolution if there's a change. If not, literally, you could take the same thing, put it in front of the council, and make it adopted separately. But still just do it as a committee of the whole item. So that way, if the council does want to make an adjustment to it for any reason, the RDA still has an opportunity to take action on it today. And if they're the same, well, we just forward them as the same resolution. If they end up being different, you just forward 2 resolutions. Again, I'm looking to legal maybe for a little bit of guidance on that.
So that is correct. That is the easiest path. The more we're thinking about it, the more it makes sense to have a joint one so that it's coming through from both entities as a unified voice. Because that's really what they've been interested in, is making sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody's on the same board.
Yes.
So that's why we felt the unified voice is the most important thing. I think that the most appropriate thing right now would be letters from the RDA chairman and the mayor expressing their support, and then saying that the joint resolution will be presented at the next meetings.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Will that satisfy the need on the state?
Yes.
Well, I mean, is it going to meet that hearing deadline?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Gary and I can write a letter
That's what I meant.
Great.
the next day.
Yep. Excellent.
That'll satisfy.
Couple things.
I'm just looking up an email here, sorry.
A couple things. Obviously, we wanted to do this concurrent with the council. Because definitely, the one time we met, that was number one thing they wanted was everybody on the same page. Absolutely. And we will be. We will be on the same page. And it's neat, the relationship you have with the county exec, that's very important. It's so critical. We really appreciate that. So why don't we go down that path then? We'll write a joint letter, and then the council can do their thing, and we'll all be on the same page.
Sounds great.
How's that sound with the group? Okay. I don't know.
Action on that.
Any action on that?
Are we really holding, are we holding it?
Well,
Yeah, you're holding the, I mean,
Okay.
the resolution can be brought back as in a different form, but you're holding action on a resolution at this point.
I guess I've been communicating with Representative Steffens, and I know his request is to have a copy of the resolution to his office by September 20th. So if you hold it, we won't be able to meet that deadline. Now, what I'm not certain of is the timing of that deadline as it relates to the hearing. Are you aware?
Well, he's asked for a letter or a resolution from the beginning, so I think a letter would certainly satisfy the purposes in the short term, and a resolution can reinforce the message, in a few weeks or a month.
Yeah, just my discussions with Representative Stefan, I think his, goal was to get some type of communication for the city. Right, sometimes resolutions are just that, but I think in his aspect, he wanted to be able to show members of the Assembly and potentially the Senate, depending on where this bill is, that look, the leaders of the community are vested on board. I mean, I think I've written things before, but I think they want to see the elected officials or the appointed officials go through and say, yep, this is something that we're going to be working towards a commitment on. And so his feeling, at least communication to me, was that he would like to see both, but I think in terms of moving something forward, that letter would suffice.
If I might make a suggestion, if there are no recommended changes to the resolution from staff or from the RDA, perhaps take action on it today as a joint resolution, bring it to council. If council chooses to refer it back, it has the same effect as a hold. If the council doesn't want to make any changes, it passes and you have it.
It's definitely an option. I think, the thing that Gary said about the city and the county being aligned, what I would like to see is our state officials be more aligned as well. So to see Representative Stefan working with Representative Brzezinski, involving Senator Hansen and Senator Coles in this process, working with the governor's office, that would be, I think, ideal to make sure that something actually happens on this front.
How does that affect, I guess, the process of the resolution? I mean, really what we're saying is that as a city, we support this. And I think it's kind of up to the state to figure out how they're going to fund it.
Sure.
And to me, the resolution is indicating our support for it, not necessarily, I mean, the resolution language doesn't indicate how to fund it, which I think is important. And it still gives them that ability to come together and do that.
Have we actually seen the actual, yeah, okay, okay, I did it earlier, that's right. I've got no problem with this resolution, I've seen this earlier. Did everybody else look at it? Okay. So we can do a couple of things. We can certainly approve this resolution as written, and we can still do the letters, you know, as a backup or whatever. How that's, from a committee perspective, does that sound good?
Yes. If it's legal things, it's good.
Yes, there's no issue. As presented, it would just, if you guys are making a different resolution, it'd be contingent on council also signing with no revisions. And so that's the only potential thing, is it would come back until it's finalized. And so I would still authorize the letters and make that the primary thing, because if we don't want to have nothing if the resolution gets held up.
Right. And the bottom line, we're so excited about this that we have to have a special meeting. If there is changes, then we have to have a special, we'll do it.
We'll do it like on the 18th,
Yeah.
right?
What if it's got to be in steps?
But the 20th.
Council meets the 17th, so,
17th.
I mean, if it was necessary for the RDA to come forward and you guys want to do that,
Yeah.
then you would have time to do so.
Okay.
We would.
Right.
Yeah, we would.
Okay.
We would. We maybe even want to we have to set that date. We have to almost set it as a date, because you have to notice a meeting.
Oh, that's
so
right.
we would have to set it, and then it could be canceled
Right.
if we didn't need it.
You can do it
So-
within 24 hours.
But it wouldn't be within, well, the council would vote that the 17th that night,
So
and the
it is
18th
Friday,
is
it's
the next
Thursday.
day. So we have
It could be
to,
on Thursday.
except I'm not in town. But
Okay,
there'll
yeah.
probably be quorum. Okay.
So do we need two separate actions?
I think so.
One to approve the resolutions, one to authorize the letter.
I don't know that you really need authorization for a letter. It's really coming from Gary as in his position and giving the support. So I think really it's just the resolution at this point.
I think the only thing that would maybe you just want to clarify, that if you did want it to be a joint resolution, then
Yes.
we would be specifically approving it and referring it to the council.
Okay.
That would be my motion.
That would be my second.
You got it, Lisa? Okay, motion and a second, approve the resolution, forward on the council. All in favor, saying aye.
Aye. Or do you want to vote it?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
of course. Oh. Yeah, let's forget the other one. Oh, I have to get it. Never heard of it in there.
You started writing your whole
Thank you.
Passed unanimously.
Okay, I would suggest, I don't need a motion on this, but that we anticipate, put on the agenda, a meeting on the 18th if necessary. We cancel it, it all depends on what happens on the 17th, but the bottom line, we should put on the agenda, a meeting on the 18th, assuming we get a quorum. I don't anticipate a reason that we have to meet, but in case we do, we do. How's that sound?
There was an alternate plan to wait till the 19th to see if we needed it, but I know I can't be here the 19th, so I just want to honor that alternate plan.
Oh, okay, so we could.
It could be the 18th.
Can it be? I mean,
Why can't it be?
It's just a matter of, if we want it to be the 18th, we'd put it on the calendar now. If you wanted to wait and see, then the earliest we could have it would be the 19th, because we'll need to schedule it.
So the 19th would still be in time for everything? I mean, obviously, that would give us a 24-hour notice time, right?
Right.
The 19th makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? Can you make that one, Bart?
I can't, but that's okay if you have a
How
quorum.
about you, Deb?
It's iffy.
So the 18th is better?
18th is better.
Jim? Which is
Either
better?
we do.
Can you either? Just to make sure we have a quorum, maybe we should do the 18th then, because then we can get that for sure, because we don't know anybody else's calendars. So we just have to pick up one that, all right, 18th.
Right.
Right. Okay.
What time would you like? Like 1:30, just like our
Yes,
normal
I would say
time?
so. You okay with you, Deb?
Okay.
That works better?
So far.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure we cover all bases, that's all. All right, Alder Johnson, we talked about all that? Alder Johnson, we talked about all that? Thank you. All right, number 2. Consideration of possible action on development agreement 18-06 with Breakthrough Fuels LLC for development project at Shipyard 239 Hart Street, 101 Bridge Street, and 119 Bridge Street, tax parcels 3-551, 3-554-A, and 3-556. Exciting again.
Yes, all right. So as you know, last fall, we in the city approved a development agreement with Breakthrough Fuel. This was to build their corporate headquarters on the north side shipyard site. They contemplated a 40,000 square foot building, probably one of the coolest looking buildings we'll have in the city, and then potential future expansion, for their growing company. They were acquired in April this year by a U.S. venture, and so staff has been working with U.S. venture to bring them up to speed in terms of the development progress and then moving things forward, and also setting timetables for development. As you know, we've been working a lot of the shipyard stuff. You also know it's been super wet out there, so in terms of some delays for filling and moving dirt. But with that, working with U.S. venture and going through the development agreement, wanted to talk about some potential changes that could be coming through to that agreement and could involve negotiations. And so with that, we'd like to discuss that in closed session.
Move to go into closed session.
Move to go into closed session.
Yes,
And now to read English. The authority may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85 sub 1E Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 2 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
There's a second. Second. Roll call, please.
All right, Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Jim Blumreich.
Yes.
Debbie Dean. Yep. Person Bart Dorff.
Yes. Move to return to regular order of business.
Second.
Your motion and a second to move to return to regular order of business. But we'll also do a roll call. Please.
All right, Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Jim Blumreich.
Yes.
Debbie Dean. Person Barbara Dorff.
Yes.
Okay, we're back in regular order of business. In closed session, we reviewed some of the developments in regard to the development agreement with Breakthrough Fuels, and we gave staff some direction as to how they should proceed. Thank you. Right.
We need a motion to proceed as directed.
Did you win the poker game? Yes.
I don't think it's not a problem. Thank you. Number 3.
We wouldn't do that.
For council to 1614 Shawano Avenue, tax parcel 6-235-E-1.
Yeah, just direct. Yes.
Okay, that's me.
Yes, please.
Follow us
All right, so DS2 Hospitality and Management has submitted a commercial facade grant application to improve their building at 1614 Shawano Avenue. This is the Motel 6 over on Shawano, just west of Military. It's a 102-room Motel 6, which initially opened in 1974. The new property owners just acquired it this past January, relying partly on the assistance of our loans. They are proposing actually a 4-phase project. This facade grant would fund part of the first phase of that enhancement to their facade, which includes 124 exterior lighting fixtures. There's the property right there, by the way. So the Design Review Committee scored this application, and we're recommending awarding $12,325, which would fund about 63% of the total project cost for Phase 1. Sonali Argawal is here. She is the owner, one of the owners of DS2 Hospitality, and can address any specific questions you have of the project. Otherwise, I'd be happy to address anything as well. We're recommending approval.
You went your normal grading process, and how did it grade out from a total point of view?
Yep, so our team scored the application. It's if you received 100%, you'd get 50 points. They received 34 points out of 50. We've got about $12,000 left, $12,325 exactly left over in our facade grant fund for this fiscal year. We're just about to the end of that fiscal year, so we're recommending using the remainder of our funds for this year to fund the project.
Okay. If you want, we can open it up. Otherwise, I'm very comfortable with the recommendation, but whatever the group wants to.
Well, I certainly would make a motion to approve, but if someone wants to hear, to ask more questions.
No, we have met, and they've been doing a great job already, really involving the police, community policing and things.
Good.
And
recently installed the high definition cameras across the property also, so yeah, the lighting is going to help us with that.
All in favor, make a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, second by Jim. Next meeting. Let me try. You did too, huh? You got yours back?
I did.
You're a little quicker than I am.
I'll give you some money for this facade.
You could.
Thanks. Looks good.
We'll see if we can get
Off the guy.
All right, those that can do it online, can do it online. Some of us will be doing it verbally. I'll get back on track, but my verbal vote is yes. Does everybody else get it online?
I got it.
You give me back?
Yeah.
Oh, so leave me.
It passed unanimously.
All right, very good, thank you. And on report. Thank you. Consideration of possible action on communication with July 16, 2019 with the Common Council Alderman Brian Johnson consider forgiveness of Broadway loan made up of Cup of Joy and referred to staff August 13, 2019. I was thinking we talked about this one before.
We referred it.
Oh,
Handled it, and
okay.
then referred it to this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So they could be here. So if you've read the report, this project takes us back a while. We were doing improvements to Broadway in the early days, in the late 90s. So the city purchased the building that the Cup of Joy occupied at the time. And we relocated the two taverns that were part of that business, which is the 333 and the Blazing Saddles. That takes you back a while.
Yeah.
And the Cup of Joy did not need to relocate because they're a great business, so we were planning on keeping them there. But I believe that they decided that they prefer to expand, move to a different site. They chose a site further on Broadway. Rob Strong at the time, who was working with them, recommended a $30,000 loan to them, which is kind of what a replacement business payment would have been. That went to the RDA, and the RDA members and the council said this is a great business, let's support them, and they approved a $60,000 interest-free loan that sits there until the property is sold or they are no longer a nonprofit or they move out. So at this point, I believe there's a communication made by Alder Johnson, who's here as well, and the Cup of Joy. Folks are here as well, if there are any questions with them. They have asked to have this loan forgiven.
Alder Johnson, please.
Yeah, I had notified Jan here with Cup of Joy that I'm going to abstain from this item.
Okay.
I submitted the communication to put it on the agenda.
Okay.
But because this is a Broadway specific fund, I think there's a little bit of a conflict there for me to speak on behalf of
I
it.
understand. I entertain a motion to open the meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to open the meeting by Jim and Alder George. All in favor, someone say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's open, please. There's no more backup.
Hi, I'm Jan. I am the director at Cup of Joy. This is Rich Grunwald. He's on our board. I wrote up kind of our side of the story. Do you want me to read it, or do you want me to just answer some questions? How this kind of came about. So how it really came about was We're a nonprofit, faith-driven family entertainment venue. We're located now at 232 South Broadway. We've been a partner of the revitalization of Broadway for the past 30 years. We began at 335 North Broadway, which is the building that Cheryl referred to, in a small storefront next to the two most colorful bars in town.
Nicely put.
Across from the canning company. And in 1995, the police department began targeting the problems on Broadway, and a revitalization program was born with On Broadway in 1996. Our first big success on Broadway was probably when the string instrument shop relocated and to the street, and that was also through a city acquisition. In 1997, the city purchased our building at 335 North Broadway and offered the two bars next to us relocation funds, so they moved. We stayed not because we stayed because we were in the process of trying to negotiate with the city to purchase that building. We thought this would be our permanent home, and so the negotiations went on and on. They kind of dragged on. And at some point, it was obvious we were at an impasse with the purchase agreement. In the meantime, the city had actually sold our building to Steve Boyer, who was the developer on the street. And we were notified that the building had been sold. We needed to move, and then we did find a different building at 232 South Broadway down the street. So Cup of Joy asked, "Hey, we're going to move." We asked for the same consideration that the two bars next door received, which was to be given some relocation funds. Unknown to us, the funds expire at that time, I think 1 year from when the city had purchased the building and left us rent from them instead. So when we got our notice to move, it was really just a very short time before that one, as soon as the 1 year kind of was up. Mayor Jaden and Alderman Zima took our request to the council, and so the documents that you see, which are the minutes of the meeting and the lien, are a result of that meeting. And 20 years ago, the city settled on giving the Cup of Joy a $60,000 loan from the RDA on Broadway revitalization funds and put a lien on 232 South Broadway. And over the past 20 years, Cup of Joy continued to thrive and give back to the community in the downtown area. We brought tens of thousands of people to the street, and to an alcohol family-friendly venue every Friday and Saturday night, where they used the hotels and they used the restaurants. We were good partners to On Broadway and to the Broadway redevelopment efforts. Our $60,000, your $60,000, was very well spent, and truly a great investment in this community. Cup of Joy had tried repeatedly to find a new home in the downtown area that would enable us to expand our capacity and stay here. We looked at dozens of buildings and locations, including plans that we even had drawn up to add on to the building we're in now. The city occasionally would make suggestions. I would occasionally get suggestions of buildings they would want us to look at, but most of them were cost prohibitive to rehab, or the parking was very limited. So now we have found a new home, one that will continue to serve people in the Green Bay area and the surrounding area, a location that allows us to grow. And so Cup of Joy is a grassroots organization still to this day. We exist on donations. We are currently in the midst of a capital campaign to raise the much needed funds that we need for this move. And we hope to continue to serve northeastern Wisconsin with faith-filled family entertainment, expanding also our music education programming to area students. The paperwork that you have before you is the only paperwork that we know of that exists on this transaction. There's no actual signed loan agreement that outlines the provisions, only the minutes from the meeting and the lien. We request that the City of Green Bay forgive the lien on our current building, knowing that this was money well invested in the revitalization of downtown Green Bay. We did stay on Broadway for 20 more years. Thank you.
I have some
Yes, please.
So, do you know how much were the bars given?
Yes, one bar was given $46,000 and the other was given $56,755.
Okay, so, but I need to clarify though. This wasn't like an offering, this was a taking. This was an eminent domain action. So these taverns, because they were forced to move, which they did not want to move, were entitled to relocation benefits. So this is replacement business, moving, searching, all of those things.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear, it wasn't like, hey, you want to move, it was a forced move.
Right.
Right.
And the new location that you're going to, is it Green Bay?
It's at 525 North Taylor Street, next to Fleet Farm West.
And is that in Green Bay?
Yeah.
It's like inches on the other side of Taylor.
So it's
Because
not
Taylor,
in
Howard.
It's in Howard.
it's right, inches. Like Taylor is Green Bay.
Yep.
We're sitting on this side of it.
One of my concerns would be.
That was Dawson Street used to end.
Yeah,
It's not Taylor, but where Dawson Street
I guess
is.
here's where my thoughts.
It ends on Taylor?
They went into this, it's a
Yeah.
loan, it's like you take out a mortgage in a house, and then you have to pay off
Yeah.
the mortgage, and it was interest-free for all these
Sometimes
years,
it's
and,
bad
but now when you move, it's kind of like Habitat houses, then don't you then give the money back, or the $5,000 neighborhood loans, or whatever. I don't feel comfortable just saying, here's $60,000, even though I like the Cup of Joy. I mean, I love the Cup of Joy, it's a great place, but I don't know.
I just want to make one small comment, because Brian had to abstain on Broadway side. We had seen the minutes which Jan had referred to, and it was agreed upon that the funds would be paid back. So, I mean, I know that it's all that it is, but these are dollars that were then supposed to be put back into the Broadway revitalization.
Right.
So if the funds, it is not supported by the board, I guess is the only comment that I'm making.
So let me just clarify. It's not in Green Bay, it's in Howard.
Officially, yeah.
So you brought up the word
Precedent.
precedent. Have we forgiven other similar kinds of loans when businesses move outside the city property?
I can't think of any as one. I mean, I think I'm just thinking of our standard.
We had some discussion when the Children's Museum was looking at moving. We have similar type loans, and I think the amount of money, and basically said to them, I think it's written in there, it can stay and be transferred to another property so long as it's in the city.
Well, that was my thought. I wondered why you might not have recommended that it remain with the new property, but understanding that's in Howard, that's a different can of worms.
Well, and it's also money that was really, it's Broadway money. It was intended for Broadway redevelopment. It comes back, it goes back to Broadway.
Yeah.
Which we're supposed to prove it.
Based on everything you've heard, I'd like to hear a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Lisa. Let's get back to regular business.
So
Jim?
Do we need to ask if anyone else has any comments?
Oh, anybody else got comments? I'm sorry. You're right.
We were primarily just seeking clarification on this at this time. Cup of Joy is uncertain as to what we're going to do with 232 South Broadway.
Okay.
At the present time, we're just going to retain it.
Okay.
We may rent it out. It's not that it's going to be gone and sold tomorrow. Or we may have another use for the property as our organization. But moving forward, it would be nice to have this clarified so we know what to do with it. It would be nice to have it gone because we can certainly use the money in other things.
So if it doesn't get sold, then we don't take the money back, is that right?
Then it would remain a part of our organization.
Yeah, it stays, it would
Just
just
stay,
stay on the
it's
property.
status quo. So if I make a motion, it would be my motion.
Let's go back to
would
the
be-
regular business.
Or, I'm sorry.
Motion.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Motion to go
Jim
back.
and Debbie. Motion to go back to regular business.
Yes.
All right, all in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Now, Odegaard, please.
Would be to deny forgiveness of the Broadway loan if the property is sold and moved out of the city.
So the way that the minutes reflect it, it's to be repaid upon sale of the property or when it ceases to be a nonprofit. So for any. That would change many capacities.
Okay, so I would, as part of the agreement, then I would deny the $60,000 deferment if the property was sold or when it ceased to become a nonprofit. No?
Or.
Not,
No.
say help me with the words. then.
Just, I would move
Just
that.
deny the request to
Deny
the loan.
Deny
Okay,
the request to
at
keep.
this time.
And keep this in.
Because it won't need to be
Keep it as
repaid
is.
if that doesn't change.
Right.
If they don't
Yeah,
sell it.
and keep this as
Okay.
is.
Even if it's not a nonprofit anymore. I thought you were
Then we
pointing
know,
that
but
out
we
to me.
bring that forward.
Then we bring it forward.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so, yep.
So, Laura, what is your motion?
Yeah, what is my motion?
To deny the request.
To deny the forgiveness of the loan.
Your second?
Second.
Second by Debbie. We shall vote.
I didn't, actually, mine didn't come up yet.
No, you had seen-
We'll have to say yes to what you said.
To approve,
Which-
yeah, to agree with
Yes.
I started second guessing when I say yes.
Yes, for the motion.
I put the votes in.
Yeah.
They were coming up, so passed unanimously.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, consideration of possible action on request by On Broadway to use $10,000 of community development block grant funds designated for reuse in the Broadway district to plant perennial natives in the planter boxes on Broadway. Number 5. On Broadway, or?
According to Cheryl's notes, Cheryl's going to be doing it.
Okay.
I can give you an overview.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
This is basically related to the restricted funds that the RDA holds from, that they're designated for the Broadway district. But we have to come back to you to gain approval whenever we want to invest or spend it. So that's, the request is that we're asking for 10,000 of it to be released for this, and I have worked with Cheryl and Krista, and it is a qualifying expense.
Move to approve.
Move to it. Second by Debbie. We shall vote. Okay, number 6. Oh, sorry.
Okay, now passed unanimously.
Thank you. Number 6, consideration of possible action on acquisition of 216 North Clay Street, tax parcel 14-87 using community development block grant funds.
All right.
Ken?
It's been a while since we've acquired anything, so here we are. 216 North.
Selling.
216 North Clay Street property. We've been working with the realtor to negotiate with the property owner. It was a single family, converted to a two-family, then converted back to a single family, but all kind of haphazardly. So we've been through the property. The interior is not in good shape. If you're looking on Zillow, the pictures give it a little better view of when you're actually in it. Looking at some of the structural issues with it too, we're looking at purchasing this to demolish and then have a buildable site to either work with Habitat or NeighborWorks on a new build, or the RDA currently has a contract to build 1 to 2 new homes for the next 3 years with the builder that we're working with right now. They're currently building over on 900 South Greenwood. So this would give us another lot to build on that would be eligible for that. We negotiated a price down to $44,900 with the demo cost being around $10,000. Staff is looking or recommending approval of this acquisition.
So the property is wider than what it might look like in the picture?
Yeah, it goes, it's 55 feet wide, so plenty of room to build on.
Yeah.
And who's building it? Did you say Habitat or?
We could work with Habitat or NeighborWorks.
Okay.
Otherwise, we also have a design that we could put on it as well.
Excellent, excellent.
Great.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Debbie to approve.
Passed unanimously.
Very good. Good luck, Ken. Full
Thanks.
speed ahead. I know you're busy. All right, thank you. Number 7. Consideration of possible action request by neighborhood works being made to subordinate the due upon sale mortgage at 1257-1261 East Walnut Streets.
Okay, so this property, I don't know if you're aware of this, but NeighborWorks owned the property. It was a 3-family that they actually lost to a fire last year, complete loss. So they're in the process now of rebuilding they actually 2 parcels that are rebuilding on the site, and they're going to put 7 units there. So they're increasing the number of units. 3 of them are going to be universally designed, and it's going to be a 2-story. So they're making a big improvement right in Walnut. We're in favor of this. It increases our accessible units. They're asking for us, we had a $54,000 mortgage on this. They're asking us to subordinate our lien to $500,000 first on that. And that puts us at about 75% loan ratio value. So we're in support of this. We think it's a great project. It's a great design. It's going to fit in the neighborhood. So it's 7 units.
On the corner?
No, it's kind of in the middle of the shovel block.
I think the variety of the look. Got some character to it.
It's a little similar to their townhome development.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just left out. I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
So staff is recommending that we.
So I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay.
We're going to.
Second. I've abstained.
Oh, we don't have a quorum.
Just stay till you get information.
Okay. Pardon me?
Just stay for 1 minute.
Okay.
Because then we'll get through
She's
the
abstaining.
business items, right? We still have a quorum.
Actually, she's voting.
Yeah.
Oh.
I suppose.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, so we have a quorum until we get this item off the
Yep,
table.
absolutely.
right.
Okay.
I did.
Jim did,
Motion.
and second by Alder
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then we shall vote.
And I'm abstaining. That does.
Right.
I think there's an option on there, is there? Abstaining?
Yeah,
But she's out already. She's logged out.
I've never run
And if you have to
into
go,
that
you have to go.
situation before, Where the quorum vote abstains.
Do we, okay, there you go.
But mine didn't, oh, here it is.
There it is.
There it is. So Debbie, if you could actually punch and abstain on
She
No,
could, but she is logged out.
I got it. All right. You got it verbally. Excellent, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Excellent.
I gotta get some.
One says a pass then? 3. Yes.
One abstention, yes.
Yeah.
So no, we can never adjourn.
Okay, informational.
Stay here for.
They can't do any more action items.
Action items, yeah.
Adjourn, that's the vote.
So financial reports, fine.
We're taking our.
Director's report, project update.
All right, just updating a few things. We have been working with downtown Green Bay and actually all of its project called Better Block. We did it last year over on Dousman Street, where we closed off the street a little bit and tried to activate some vacant storefront space and really just, kind of bring attention to an area that might have a few vacancies or maybe people don't think about. So we're going to be doing that on Adams Street Friday, starting at
5 to 9.
5 to 9, and then Saturday
10 to 5.
Okay. And so you're going to be able to see some of the new businesses that have gone in there, but also get into some of the spaces and then just really activate the street and then make it a lively place. It should be a really great event to get people down to that one block and then see it in a way. And at the end of the day, I think our goal collectively is to get those spaces leased up and get some more improvement activity there. So there'll be events, entertainment. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that.
Just to add, already we're seeing some activity on that street. The Heel building was sold recently. So under new ownership, whenever a building falls into a new developer's hands, that's always a good sign. And we will be hearing soon what the redevelopment plan is for that property. There is a chance that by this weekend, they might have a banner out, coming soon sort of thing, but that's still to be determined. But that's you know, a delight to know that that blighted property is on its way to redevelopment.
Great.
Tax increment districts. You had nothing on your agenda today. We took care of that last time. We've got all these proposed changes going to council next week, and we'll go to the joint review board after that. So just an update for those things. Continue to progress along. Shipyard. Like I said, we've had really good discussions about the conceptual plan. Stantec is going to work on a process now of moving forward with 30, 60, 90% construction plan. So we'll have an opportunity to kind of take that concept and be able to shape into what it's really going to be. As I mentioned, we're trying to just finish up getting our arms around moving dirt over there. It's been so wet, it's been really hard to bring in the fill and then do that grading. But we should see that start to move very soon. And then also, probably in the near horizon, we're going to be start talking about our block grant consolidated plan. Of Krista still here? No. Basically, this is the big longer-term plan that kind of guides our individual spending years. And I think the timing is really good in terms of we're also going to be embarking through our plan commission an update of our comprehensive plan, and so being able to tie in future land use and tackle things like housing, homelessness, affordability, and just really getting a good sense of how block grant dollars should be used in the community. We're going to have a process for that that'll be starting up probably later this year in terms of public involvement and outreach. So you can look forward to that on your docket. And that's my update, unless you have questions.
Anything new on Shower Schumacher?
You can answer that one, and then I have a quick update on another project.
So when we had the last RFP, right, we didn't get any proposals for that, but since then, we've taken through quite a few people, right? I mean, there's been, we don't have anything signed on the line yet.
No.
We've dug a little bit more into the cost of stabilizing some of those properties, and so we're kind of crunching numbers to figure out, all right, what may be some options for redevelopment, so we can work with the developer and say, look, I mean, honestly, here's how much it's going to take just to bring it back to this piece. But we'll continue to walk people through.
Good.
And hopefully get something moving on that.
Mike got a reaction as Ken, you make something happen over there.
Yes.
Thanks for your vote. Good luck.
We'll get it done.
Oh, you will. Thank you. Jeff?
Just have a quick update on Whitney School. They broke ground this week on the first 6 of a dozen townhomes. So that brings to that neighborhood 55 units under construction.
Wow.
So the 901 Main probably be looking at November occupancy. That's 20 units. And beginning next Thursday afternoon, Whitney School, the lofts, they will be doing some pre-leasing sneak peek tours. So you'll be hearing more, a chance to get in, take a look at how that development is coming along. I believe they're looking at probably January occupancy for those 23 units. So we're very pleased, 55 units under construction. You can see the rooftop just a few blocks away.
And I understand 901 Main, they pretty well got that pretty well sold. Is that correct?
So that is an apartment development,
Yeah, right.
20 units,
Yeah.
and they are beginning to do some pre-leasing as well.
Yeah, pre-leasing, I'm sorry. Yes, they had a drive-by Van Boxtel Bar, one time you were working on that. A couple of guys in suits there looking at the building.
Suits?
Yeah, they had suits on, so I mean, anyway, bottom line, is there anything new from the city perspective that we're doing there?
No,
okay.
We kind of ran down that road and just didn't fit with
okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
Were they colorful suits?
That ties on, whatever. They're looking at the building.
Well, you know what kind of tie I wear, so.
Okay.
They'll be under new ownership. So the adjacent property owner acquired that property within the past few months. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? How about the health and is that over area? Anything over there? Military rather?
No, I met a couple developers at the Packer Luncheon and talked about our second floor of the Sears location would have views of Lambeau Field. And the guy was like, really? So that was kind of exciting. I'm like, yes, come over.
Come on over.
So that would be cool.
You look at it like this, right?
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. We are
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you. Wow.
That way.
That's the meeting. Never done one.